Okay, let's move to the defensive side of the ball. Let's just start at the front and work our way back. We'll go to defensive line. But as we discussed before we started recording, we are going to take the most obvious answer out of the equation. No one can say Myles Garrett because we know how important Myles Garrett is. So, Mary Kay, start us off. Give us a defensive line name.
Can I say Jadeveon Clowney?
You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, by the time this goes up, who knows? He could be a Cleveland Brown. I still think that I still think they have a pretty good chance of signing him. I mean, he took one free agent visit and it was here to Cleveland. So I think he was seriously considering it. I think they want to sign him. And I still think he's going to end up here. And if he does, I think that he becomes the next most important defensive lineman after Myles Garrett. I, for one, am all for it. I think that he is an elite edge defender against the run. And he'll set that edge. I think that's important when you're playing teams like the Baltimore Ravens and running quarterbacks like Kyler Murray. And I just think that I think he would really complement Myles really well. And I think he complements Takk McKinley well, because you've got one guy that is more focused on rushing, and you've got another guy that's really good against a run. So the combo package of those two, who you could get for the price of one, probably, right? If you go somewhere in the $6 million a year range with Jadeveon. So is it okay? Is it within the rules for me to pick him, thinking that they could possibly get him, or do I have to pick somebody else?
I say it's okay.
Okay.
Okay, so Ellis, why don't you give us another name?
All right, I'm going to go. There's two ways I want to go with this. I'm going to go with Malik Jackson. And what was so interesting about Malik Jackson, or at least what I'm most curious about, is where he plays the most snaps for this Browns team. That likely comes inside, but when watching his tape, there is enough evidence of his ability on the outside playing defensive end that just really piques my interest in his versatility and flexibility. You know, we talk about versatility so often with safeties or corners. You know, they can play inside, they can play outside, they can play deep half, they can play single high. But we're starting to see the way the Browns want to build this defensive line, and they want versatility across the board up there also. And it was one of the things that really intrigued me about JJ Watt, the possibility of him coming to Cleveland. Since the door's been closed on that, of course, Malik Jackson is a guy who I'm now realizing can do both. And if he's healthy, if they can get 80% of who he was in 2017, 2018, I realize that was 3 years ago now, but if he can get back at that, and he talked to the media about his Liz Frank injury and how problematic that was, assuming that's behind him and he can get back there, this Browns defensive line is becoming sneaky good, and they're doing so far without Jadeveon Clowney, who Mary Kay just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you said Jackson. That was a guy that I had circled to maybe bring up as well, and I was looking some stuff up. His pass rush grade in 2020 was kind of back closer to his norm. In 2019, of course, with the injury, it dropped all the way down to below 60, but he's normally been in the 70s in PFF's pass rush grades, and he was back at 72.1 last year. I think it's really important for this team to get some pressure up the middle. We know about Myles Garrett. Mary Kay, you talked about Jadeveon Clowney and Takk McKinley, and maybe they draft somebody over there. You've got to get pressure up the middle, and Ogunjobi wasn't doing it. Andrew Billings, that's not really his forte. He's more of a run stopper than anything. So I think pressure up the middle is really important. And so because of that, I'm going to throw the guy next to Malik Jackson in. I'm going to say Sheldon Richardson. Sheldon Richardson, probably one of kind of John Dorsey's unheralded signings. Everybody loves the guy. He's been really good in the locker room. He's just played hard ever since he showed up. And last year, I thought he had a really nice year, and you saw him make an impact. And he's another guy that I think can create some pressure up the middle, former first-round pick. I like what Sheldon Richardson brings to this team. This might be his last year in Cleveland. I don't know how that works out. It's the final year of his contract. But I'm going to go with I think more of the theme here is just whoever they put on the inside there, because they just didn't get enough last year. And I know Sheldon was a part of that last year, but I don't think it was on him. I think it was on kind of the other guys around him. So any name you want to throw on the inside, Sheldon, Malik Jackson, Jordan Elliott, Andrew Billings. Again, if they draft somebody, I think all of those guys are really vital to this football team. They've got to create pressure up the middle.
You know what? I really like that pick of Sheldon, because he found a home here, and he's a leader, and he kind of, in some ways, was the glue that held that sort of D-line together in some ways, because he is just a natural leader. And I think he was a very powerful presence on that line, and he makes impact plays. He doesn't show up on the stats all the time, but he does his job. He makes impact plays. He gets those hands up, blocks kicks. He does a lot for you. So I really do like that. And then as far as what Ellis was saying about Malik Jackson, I do like that versatility too. And one of the things about him that I think is vitally important is that he got through a whole season after the Liz Frank injury, and he feels confident now. He got that season under his belt. And as he mentioned, he knows what is going to happen to it when he plays in the cold. He knows how he's going to be the next week. So I think he got a lot of that out of the way, and he can probably just kind of cut loose a little bit more and be himself. And that is, that's his forte, to kind of play with his hair on fire. I'm anxious to see him and Tack together, because the way people describe Tack when he's on his game is the same way, just kind of like a heat-seeking missile in some way. So I'm anxious to see how those two kind of guys work together.
Browns have been signing a lot of guys that have played in Super Bowls, by the way, too.
Mm-hmm.
Notice that?
Yeah.
Malik Jackson, the two Rams guys. Austin Hooper played in the Super Bowl, I believe, right? He was on that Falcons team.
Yeah.
So we've signed some guys that have played in Super Bowls recently. Okay.